Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Welcome to the April 7th, 2025 meeting of the Police and Fire Commission. First agenda item is a call to order, and second is Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Third agenda item is motion to approve the March 19th, 2025 Police and Fire Commission meeting minutes.
I second.
Any discussion? Just another emphasis, a point of thanks to all the people who are involved in the fire chief process, including Sarah in particular, Chief Grossen, and the entire fire service and everyone else who commented for us. Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving to approve the meeting minutes from March 19th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Agenda item number 4 is public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't believe we have any today. So we'll move to agenda item number 5, which is citizen complaint by Reginald Mims. And maybe what we might do is turn it over to legal counsel to share thoughts on where we're at with current status, and then we can move forward from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Thursday, a motion was filed in both of the complaints filed by Mr. Mims, filed by the counsel for the officers that are named in those complaints. And essentially, the two motions are more or less the same, and they ask this body to dismiss these complaints due to the failure of the officers to be served properly as required by the PFC complaint process. So that was filed on Thursday. Unfortunately, due to the timing of that, we weren't able to get those motions on the agenda for this body to see because there was just not enough time to notice a hearing and, well, I guess first poll the members, find a time, and then notice the hearing ahead of today's hearing. So we're taking these up now. By way of background, I just want to tell this body and the officers in the room, the council, and anyone else who might be watching that in the, about 9 years that I've been here with the city of Fitchburg, I don't believe we've had any complaint go to a hearing like this, and I suspect probably significantly longer than that. And so, to the extent that there was some miscommunication in getting the service properly effectuated on the officers, I think a large function of that was that it just wasn't something that we have done before. So the officers were provided with the information, but it was not served in the manner that it was required, and that is a procedural defect. That was pointed out by Attorney Harrell, who's here today. And so at this point, these two motions are, in the two complaints are before this body, and there's a closed session for you to deliberate, but I can tell you that I would agree with the council's position that there's a procedural problem given that there was no personal service which was required. And I would also add one other thing is that the union advised us they're generally happy to accept service for officers, and so I think we have a plan moving forward. Not that we hope to see a lot of complaints, but when we do, we'll have a process in place for making sure that that's accomplished efficiently and quickly.
All right. Any questions from commission members? And counsel for, I believe, for the officers is here. Any comments to add?
I do have a question.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Commissioner Banks.
Whose responsibility is it to give that notice?
So it's the secretary's responsibility to arrange for service, which is Sarah, and she did, my understanding is, work with the police department to get that service accomplished. I think there was a misunderstanding on the part of the police department of what that service, personal service, meant in that situation. So again, it's not that the officers weren't provided with the information, but it wasn't provided in the manner that's required by the statute.
Thank you.
Any other questions from commission members? All right. Counsel.
Yeah, and if I could just explain why it matters, why personal service matters. I think what happened here is a good example. I'm so sorry. I think I'm on call today, so my phone's always on. Sorry about that. The reason personal service matters is that it really puts officers on notice. This is something serious. This requires your immediate attention. Rather than just leaving in their mailbox, it sort of left the impression that it might go away or you don't need to immediately alert your counsel. And that's precisely what happened here. We were not alerted right away. So when this board had its initial hearing on the sufficiency of the complaint, unfortunately, there was no one there on behalf of the officers. And I appreciate at that hearing, it's not required that the officers be present, but I can tell you for certain, had we been notified, I would have filed motions to dismiss the complaint because it's very vague. Both complaints are very vague. They don't contain really any factual allegations, just these broad allegations that Mr. Mims' constitutional rights were violated. And I think Mr. Mims has some work to do on these complaints to be more specific about exactly what he's alleging, exactly what policies and procedures he's alleging were violated, and what relief he's asking for from this PFC. And so that's why it matters, is that we would have filed those motions. So what I would propose, as Ms. Zisman has indicated, in the future, and even in this case, if you were to dismiss, I would be willing to immediately accept service of a new complaint, or the same complaint really, on behalf of the officers. That I would propose by this Friday, I file motions to dismiss, challenging the sufficiency of the complaints, that as early as next week, you could set a hearing on that it would not need to be a lengthy hearing, maybe 30 minutes. And then if you allow the complaints to go forward, we set the hearing. If not, Mr. Mims would have the ability to refile the complaints pursuant to any instructions you give on that.
Were the officers aware of the meeting we had on the sufficiency of the complaint the first time?
I don't know that all of them were, to be quite honest. I think that some of them, I believe they were given that notice just days before that hearing. Some of them might have been off duty, and I believe when they're off duty, they don't have access to their emails. So I can't say with certainty, but I can say that there was certainly a feeling that that hearing didn't pertain to them, or that it wasn't as important as it actually was.
Okay. And just to make clear, you will accept service for any officers in the Fitchburg Police Department going forward for any complaint matters?
I will, so long as they're our member, yes.
Well,
which I believe they all are. So
I was going to say, are they all required to be members under state law?
I believe here they are.
They're not required, but they all are here.
Okay. Are they all required to pay union dues under state law?
They're not required to pay dues, no.
Okay.
And I'll represent, like, for example, with the Madison PFC, the minute a complaint comes in, the attorney for the PFC will email me that complaint and just say, will you accept service? And I just verify very quickly that, we represent those officers, and I always do accept service.
Sure. Yeah, we're quite different from the Madison Police and Fire Commission. Quite different, which is important. Okay, so we have a motion, and from what I understand, it's for all the officers in front of us, two different separate motions, correct?
That is correct.
I have another question.
Sure, please.
In what I've been hearing and the people who are talking, seemingly this representation is on one side, on the respondent, even though I'm assuming the police association is supposed to be independent. But where is the complainant able to, address, here's where I am, here's more of where I am? Should I have been able to notice the other side to say, here's where my complaint is? It just appears at face value a one-sided type of view.
I can answer that. So process-wise, I think Mr. Mims had the opportunity. He was here at the last meeting when we first talked about the complaint. The commission did decide the complaint was sufficient. And then Mr. Mims was welcome to attend here, and we planned on him attending today. I think we all cleared our schedules for today. So he may still be present. But it sounds like the process of service of the officers is a responsibility of the city, which the city didn't do appropriately, which is why now we have these motions to consider today. So I don't think Mr. Mims had any responsibility as part of that motion or notice process. Does that get to the question you were looking for? Okay. Any other questions about the motions in front of us or comments? All right. Then I will move to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statutes 1985, subsection 1, subsection A, to deliberate concerning a case which was the subject of a quasi-judicial hearing, to deliberate concerning the motion to dismiss of Sergeant Michael's complaint first. Any second from Commissioner?
I'll second. Not up awake yet.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of entering closed session, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? All right, we are in closed session, so we'll ask that. All right, we are back to the Police and Fire Commission meeting after a closed session, and we're moving to agenda item 5C, action taken on items discussed in closed session. I will move that we acknowledge the motion and the failure to serve process as required under state law, that we deny the motion to dismiss Mr. Mims' complaint, but we move to postpone this evidentiary hearing that we had scheduled today until proper service has been made, the statutory timeline has passed, and the parties are ready to proceed with the evidentiary hearing.
I'll second.
Any discussion? So, in effect, what we would be doing is not dismissing Mr. Mims' complaint, but we will reserve the complaint today, and I'd ask that we do it today in person to the police officers. And then at that point, we schedule the hearing for the period that's required. Any other discussion?
If I just might add, as counsel for the officers is here today, she did indicate that she'd be willing to receive that service of process on behalf of all of the officers, so that personal service upon them would not be required.
Right.
You can just get that on the record.
Yeah, and I think just for our purposes, we want to get it in their hands personally. And for future purposes, our Police and Fire Commission, whatever the makeup of it looks like in the future, should, now that we've had one of these hearings, put some processes in place in our rules and regulations. All right, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay. Any other motion, or I'm sorry, any other action coming out of closed session for agenda item 5C? Okay, well, let's move to agenda item 5D, which is a motion to dismiss for Sergeant Brown, Officer Hamburg, Officer Claudio Dominguez, Officer Vang, and Officer Lukey. Counsel for the police officers, anything kind of to add for these individuals in the motion?
No, it's the same rationale and logic as
Okay. Any questions from commission members about the second motion? Okay. Then I'll move that we enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 1985, subsection 1, subsection A, to deliberate concerning a case which was a subject of a quasi-judicial hearing, to deliberate on any possible motions. Any discussion?
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, we're back in closed session. We are back from our closed session and moving to agenda item 5F, action to be taken on items discussed in closed session. I will move that we deny the motion to dismiss, acknowledge the motion and the failure to serve process appropriately under state law, but move to postpone this evidentiary hearing until the service and statutory time period have appropriately passed.
Second.
Any discussion? So it is in effect the same motion that we made for the first complaint. I'm sorry, first motion to dismiss. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay, then I will move to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion items, so we will serve now. And we would ask that the parties talk to Sarah about potentially the dates that we can have moving forward. We have a full agenda for April 16th, so probably not that date when we have our regularly scheduled Police and Fire Commission meeting, but we'll have to find another date with members that are on the Police and Fire Commission at that time. Yep, please.
Could we get a position from council for the officers if you're willing to waive the 30-day limit for the evidentiary hearing? I think that will affect scheduling.
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to waive that. And one question I have is I would anticipate filing motions to dismiss the complaint on grounds of sufficiency. So I don't know if that's something you want to take into account with respect to scheduling.
Let's do that first, then.
Okay.
Let's schedule a time for any motions that may come from you or the complainant, Mr. Mims. And well, I guess I'd ask that any motions are served on the parties in addition to the city and the Police and Fire Commission as well. So bottom line is I'd like to add the union should serve Mr. Mims with any motions that they have. Any other discussion?
You might want to clarify what serve means. I think the union did communicate this particular motion via email.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's sufficient. So
That's sufficient.
an email notice to Mr. Mims, and why don't you copy myself individually as the chair of the Police and Fire Commission and Sarah on that email.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, then we have a motion to adjourn on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, we're adjourned until next time. Thank you.